Welcome everybody. We are here in Imola, or Emilia-Romagna as you should say. But we are ready then for round 7 of Silver Season 8. Then here we are in Italy then, ready to get going. Then we have got a few drivers, we've got quite a lot of drivers actually out on track already. So everyone keen to get themselves a lap on the board very early on in qualifying. Potentially we might have some rain on the forecast then for later on here. We will that usually indicates when all the drivers are coming out of the pit lane straight away in qualifying. But of course we have got a short qualifying format here. 16 minutes left of the session before we get ourselves into the Grand Prix itself then. Bonjour from Gordo then, bonjour to yourself then, and Ast says Tonto for the win then. So Tonto then is got a fan in the comment section then supporting the Haas driver then to see what he can do here tonight. We've got Marvsky then, who's first out on track then. Here's in the Alpine tonight in place of Mumford. The championship leader then is not racing here, and unfortunately that's bad news for him, because of course his championship rival then, Ultimate Beast, is not too far behind in the points pairing positions, and he is still in the pit lane though, so we have to wait and see what Beast is going to be up to then in qualifying. But first of all, we're going to see what Marvsky can do here in the Alpine then, coming through Sector 2 now. And hopefully the game audio is there as well. I can't hear it. Yes, I can hear it now. The good stuff indeed. There is some game audio then. That's fantastic. Then there's a McLaren then going very slowly out the pit lane there. So hopefully getting himself out of the way then of the drivers who are starting their flying laps now. He doesn't seem to be moving though. That is a problem. So hopefully he doesn't get himself disqualified there. But there we go then. As we got Marvsky there, of course, purple in Sector 2. Then he has got himself through over the crest of the hill, then down towards the first Ravazzas of the Ravazzas, that is, then into the final turn. Then let's see what Marvsky can do then to set the timing screens alight here in qualifying then for Silver Season 8 round 7. Up to the line, it's a 16-1 then from the Alpine then to set ourselves underway. Let's have a look and see who's next across the line then. I think Gordo is starting off a lap then. There's a bit of lag then. Hopefully that is me, not on there is Tonto though. Goodness me. Tonto, as Asta said in the comment section, he is supporting Tonto for the win then. Tonto currently a 15-3 then. Massive improvement then on Marvsky's time. That is fantastic stuff indeed then from the Haas driver. Then Kamara Racer a 14-8 then for the Williams driver. Then tumbling in then these times. Brilliant stuff indeed then. We've got more action out on track. The Reflection is retired. Echo is up into P4 with a 16-5 then just behind Marvsky then on the second row of the grid then. Gordo has gone through. Passes an Alpine. I think that might be Marvsky then getting himself out of the way. Then Gordo now into Sector 2. Then where is the next car to cross the line, we will ask. And I think it might be this man here, Sweet MGP, then in P3 for the Alpine team, a 15-6 then for the Sweet MGP, then puts himself into, or down to P4 I should say then, because Keychains gone faster still with a 14-1 then. What is that? That is 7 tenths at least faster than Kamara Racer then, who's currently down in P2, or down to P2 after the first outings here as well. Yellow flags fluttering. There's quite a lot of cars out on track here tonight, especially in the first outing of qualifying, so that does just speaks to me that there's going to be a rain coming in qualifying here. Here comes Gordo. Then Gordo, of course, challenger as well. Then a 15-2 for Gordo, puts himself P3 on the second row of the grid. Good stuff indeed. Then here comes Mishfleet. He's just starting off a lap. Then Nigel is flying through in towards the end of Sector 1. Beast is out on circuit, but he's invalidated his time then, unfortunately, for Beast in P2 in the standings as well. Then he is challenging here for tonight. Of course, if he can repeat the feat then of the last 2 races in silver, I should say, then for Beast, he has won the Grand Prix here in Imola. Of course, it's not been all the form that he's had in the previous season. Then the form definitely in his favour this season, but can he carry on the feat? Then can he get a hat trick of wins here in the Emilia-Romagna state of Italy as well? Then we'll have to wait and see. Goodness me, Plotters then locking up then and sliding off at the first Ravazza then. Not too good indeed then, but he has kept his lap valid there somehow, so that's pretty good stuff. But unfortunately not enough then for the Red Bull driver. Then here comes Nigel then over the crest of the hill then in towards the first Ravazza, then keeping it within track limits then is going to be the feat, going to be the well, precipice I should say for this qualifying and for the race itself. Then up to the line for Nigel, 15-0, then puts himself P3 onto the second row of the grid. Then good stuff indeed. Fantastic stuff indeed then. Marvsky back out on circuit. Then Marvsky coming round the second Ravazza, almost losing the back end then as well as he storms towards the line. Let's see what Marvsky can do here. It's a 16-1. He's improved by 43 thousandths of a second. Then good stuff indeed. Jay Hings unfortunately has invalidated it as well then somewhere through this lap as well. Then like I said, as Beast then invalidates as well, then we can see all the track limits then being extended in this qualifying. And will we see the same in the Grand Prix as well? We had a horrible 100% race around here where quite a few drivers got disqualified with too many penalties then which we might see again tonight. Then we'll have to wait and see. Of course, it's only a 50% race, this one, so it's not as hazardous then indeed as a 100% Grand Prix. But there we go. Then Jay Hings back out on a lap. No, he's not back out on a lap. Then he's unfortunately invalidated again. Then so he's going to have to go back round again. Then Mr. Elite, after his first point scoring performance then in Miami last week, then is in P7 then with the 15.8. Good stuff indeed for the McLaren driver then. Fantastic stuff indeed. Jay Hings, unfortunately, like I said, not got a valid lap together. Then same for Ultimate Beast, then the Championship Challenger, then having struggles out there in his first outing in qualifying. Kiki said, gone faster than my time yesterday as well. Then says the Mercedes driver, that is because there is a Q1 in gold, of course, last night where Kiki reserved. That is why the time is going to be faster than in a short qualifying format then, as the track is already more evolved than it is for the qualifying one then in a full qualifying format. Goodness me, Casey Jennett then locking up the inside right, it looks like then, as the Red Bull seems to be trying to drive through it then, but yeah, thankfully got himself out of the way just in time. Then Casey Jennett unfortunately having a problem then in sector 1, I should say, and then through the second chicane, and that has been costly indeed then for the Ferrari driver. Then still got time, 10 minutes left of the session to get yourself back in, back out again, and back round again then in a valid manner. But Jay Hings then, oh dear, getting a bit squirrely out there then, but let's see what he can do then back on the next lap then. Yes, he's got enough fuel, he's got enough ERS, then he is back on a lap now, and goodness me, that the start finish straight seems to be a bit jumpy then for me, but hopefully that's just me. But there we go then, into the first chicane then for Jay Hings, and negotiating it nicely this time and keeping it within those track limits as well. Then now powering down towards the second chicane, can he keep it within the limits again here as we go very wide? They're trying to keep it over the white line. Yes, he has done in towards Toza corner now, and looking good so far then for Jay Hings. Then of course, oh goodness me, he's not gone too well on the exit of Toza, unfortunately though for Jay Hings. Goodness, I'll skip over that because I don't want to jinx him anymore. There we go then. Well, let's jinx somebody else. I shouldn't say that. That's probably bad. But Vessia then is on a lap. Then Vessia's kept it clean then through the first sector, now into sector 2. This is where it gets tight and technical then in this middle part of the lap. Then locking up again then into that left-hander as well then. So it seems like a few drivers then, especially the Ferraris, are locking up everywhere it seems. But hopefully they can do well out there, one of their home Grand Prix that is. Echo said spun before my first lap, then says Echo, then into the third sector, I should say, purple in sector 2 then for Vessia. Then that's looking pretty promising for the Ferrari driver. Let's see what he can do then down towards the first Ravazza as well. Then this is of course where we saw Plotters lock up as well. Then he's kept it clean this time for Vessia, that is. Now into the second Ravazza, then going a bit too wide on the exit then, but keeping it within track limits. Then up to the line for the Ferrari. What's it going to be? It's a 14.8, puts himself P2 and ahead of Kamara Racer. Front row seat then for front row seat, I should say, then for Vessia as it stands. Tonto is back out on lap, then Tonto's up into P4 with a 14.9, looking strong in this race, or in this qualifying, I should say. Goodness me, we've only had 8 minutes of qualifying, 10 minutes of qualifying so far. We've got to the Echo, not an Echo, it's a Mr. Elite then off the circuit on his outlap there as well then, so he's had a problem there somewhere, as the other McLaren of MHD is on an outlap as well then, just starting off his first outing here in qualifying. So far so good then. As there we are then, Kiki, what a lap then, says Gordo in the comment section. Gordo down to P6 now with a 15.0 then on the third row of the grid as it stands, but still plenty of time then to improve on this session, I should say. Then 8 minutes left now of the qualifying here. Goodness me, it's been pretty epic so far in this qualifying session. Everyone came out quite early as well then, so it did indicate that I thought there was going to be a bit of rain coming in this session, but doesn't seem to be. Then with 8 minutes left, we're over halfway now, and the sun is still shining here in Imola as we go through the second chicane now for Ultimate Beast, then keeping it within track limits this time then is the Championship Challenger as we go through the Toza corner now, then almost losing the back end through there, keeping it within track limits on the exit as well though, up to the crest of the hill, then over the crest of the hill, then in towards sector 2 now, and making sure we don't go on that curb on the inside then, because it can spin that car out, but he has kept it in the right order, in the right way, and now into Aqua Minerale as well. Then this is where the back end wants to step out there, but you've got to keep it under control, and he has done very nicely indeed. Then up to sector 3 I should say. Then he's purple in sector 2. Can you keep it valid through that final chicane? Then that's where it's going to be very costly indeed. Then, as we have kept it valid very nicely indeed, then down the hill towards the first Ravazza. Then this is where Ultimate Beast needs to get that lap time absolutely perfect. Then to challenge for pole position. Then Nigel up into P2 with a 14.8. Then he's going great guns indeed as Nigel back on form. But here comes Ultimate Beast. Then can he steal away that pole position? Not quite. It's P2 then for Ultimate Beast. Then it's his teammate on the front of the grid as it stands with 6.5 minutes left of the session. Then Real Ashton Army is retired in the pit lane. He is done and dusted in qualifying, unfortunately, for the Kick Sauber reserve. Then he is reserving in place of Potstuff, who is not, I think he's working tonight, unfortunately, for Potstuff. But his teammate is looking pretty good then in P3 as it stands then for Nigel. Not too shabby indeed then. I think Kiki is on a lap then. Can Kiki improve? Can he get himself into the 13s here in this qualifying session? Goodness me, there's a McLaren all over the place there in front of him there, but he has disappeared on the grass then. Yeah, that's evasive manoeuvres for sure. As we go round the second Ravazza now for Kiki. Can he improve then? Can he get himself in the 13s? Let's see what he can do. It's a 14.0 that he has improved by 67 thousandths of a second. But he stays, I should say, P1. Brilliant stuff indeed then. He's improved his time then into the 14 zeros. Now Beast is almost 4.5 tenths ahead, behind, I should say, goodness me. But Nigel then P4, P3 I should say, then Kamara down to P5, then with Vessia then in P4, rounding off of the second row of the grid, then Kamara just pulling out the way, then Gordo then is starting off another lap then through the first chicane. Then let's see what Echo is up to. He's just also starting another lap. Then Farf, his teammate, is coming through the final chicane, I should say. And let's see what the Farth can do then as we go down the hill then in the Racing Bull. Then, of course, not so much a home Grand Prix for the Racing Bulls anymore, but it's close enough as we head up towards the start-finish line then for Racing Bull number 1 then. And that is a 15.3 then for Farth. Puts himself in the top 10 then into P10 and right in the middle of the grid as it stands then. So far so good. Then Echo's on a lap. Then Irvine back in the pit lane. Then Irvine unfortunately not having a great time out there in qualifying. Then Echo is back on track as well. Then let's see what Echo can do. Actually, we'll skip back to Echo because I think Gordo is further ahead. Then Gordo is coming down towards the first of the Ravazzas now and he's on medium compound tyres. Never mind then. He's looking to improve on a 15.0. Then can he do that on medium compound tyres? We will find out now as we go through the second Ravazza. Then it's going to be quite close, I think, actually here. Nope, he's coming back in the pit lane. Never mind. Ignore me completely. Echo unfortunately has invalidated. He's done 16.5, I should say. Then P13 for the time being. There's still time for Echo to get himself back out on circuit. Then unfortunately for Kamara Racer though, as there's a hassle all over the place there as well. Unfortunately for Kamara Racer, he has invalidated his time then, so he is going to be having to go back round again. Then he's got time to come back in the pit lane actually, to be fair, and go back onto a new set of tyres if he wishes. But we will find out what his strategy is then for the remaining 4 minutes of qualifying here in Imola. Then good stuff indeed so far. Then what a lap then from Gordo as well. Then yes, it was a lap indeed. And now into the first Ravazza once again then for Plotters. Then he's going to start off a lap. Then can he improve on a 15.299 from P9 as well? Then let's see if he can get himself further up the order then for the Red Bull driver. Then flying down the main straight. Then of course ERS and DRS available then as we go down towards the first of the chicanes. Then heading in then as quickly as possible, then making sure you keep that car in the inside the track limits. It's quite difficult indeed, but he has managed that very nicely indeed. Then as well, then in towards the second chicane as well now, negotiating that one very nicely as well then for the Rebel. He's got himself back on form now here. 2.7 tenths I should say, not 2.7 seconds. That would be pretty impressive stuff indeed then, but unfortunately it's only 2.7 tenths. Would put him in the range then of Gordo, potentially with Tonto as well. Then we'll have to wait and see then as we come flying down towards the Aqua Minerale section of the circuit in Sector 2 now for car number 71. Then here he comes then up the hill. Then he's kept it within track limits there as well. That's very dangerous, that part of the circuit as well. Then into Sector 3 we go then. And he has now got a 2.5 tenth improvement as well then. So he's unfortunately lost a few thousandths of a second then in Sector 2 somewhere. But it looked pretty good to me then. Down the hill we go then towards the first of the Ravazzas. There's a second one coming up afterwards as we head into the last part of the lap. Then losing the back end slightly then as he's gone wide as well, then invalidating his time unfortunately for Plotters then, but it was looking good then. He needs to get himself in the box then into the pit lane there, sir. Oh, you missed the pit lane. I thought he had time to get in the pit lane there, but unfortunately not. Potentially he's got enough fuel and enough ERS to go again on this same set of tyres. There's all the cars pouring out the pit lane here. Ferrari deciding to go onto the grass as well there, so that is interesting stuff indeed then. Goodness me, God, what is going on here? Favre then has decided to just park on the goodness. Don't park there. Oh my word. God, just, the awareness is very strong with Favre. My God. Yeah, you can't just park on the exit of a chicane. And Favre is now trying to put the pressure on a Ferrari, I should say, then somewhere for some reason. He's going past the Ferrari as well then. Casey is on a lap then. Casey is coming through into Sector 2 here as well then. This is where it's going to get dangerous indeed because there's quite a lot of traffic ahead of him as well. Here comes the Ferrari driver then up the hill then towards the second sector. Now there's an Alpine getting out of the way. Thankfully that Alpine is aware of what is going on around him as well. Then here comes Casey then down the hill then towards Acqua Minerale as well then for his second lap, I should say, then in qualifying. I thought he'd done hadn't done a lap yet, but he's done a 27.4, which unfortunately I don't think is representative of his time, of his pace, I should say. Then into Sector 2 now, and keeping it clean then into that final chicane as well, which is good stuff indeed. Then down the hill then Riyadh has retired in the pit lane. I think he's not done a time once again in qualifying, which is customary for him now as well. Then into the first Ravazza, there's a Williams car then, and that is a Williams car that has definitely impeded Casey Jennett then, and unfortunately that is going to be very bad news indeed because he's not going to be able to improve, well, he is going to be able to improve his time, I should say, but unfortunately he's not going to be able to improve his time enough then to get him further up the order the way he would want to be then, and that was definitely a problem then. And I think that was a Williams then of Kamara Racer who's going to be in trouble with the stewards after that one. Unfortunately there, we caught it on camera, but yeah, that is definitely what you do not want to be doing then in this session, as Vessia then has gone through then in towards Toza then, and I think there's what's happening in the background. There's a Mercedes going slowly. No, Beast is going fine. I'm not quite sure what's happening. I thought Beast had slowed down then, but he seems to be on pace then. He's still going for it. No, he's not going for it. I'm not quite sure what's happened there, but never mind then. Goodness me, what is happening all over the place? Kiki then into Toza corner, and he's got himself past the Ferrari of Casey. I think Casey's run out of fuel then. That's probably why. Tonto's finished his qualifying. He is going to be P7 at best in this session, and Farf P11 at best as well. Then he is retired in the pit lane, and Casey Jennett is trying to get himself out of the way then of the cars coming through on their laps. But of course, cruising into Sector 2, this is not a very convenient place to be, I suppose you could say then, as we go through into Sector 2 now then, trying to get himself out of the way. There's a McLaren now coming down the hill, which is it's MHD then. He is into Acqua Minerale as well here. We'll come back to that because we need to find the next Haas then of Irvine. Irvine is coming through across the line then. P11 for Irvine, a 15.2 for the Haas driver then. Good stuff indeed then. Where's the Alpine of Marvsky? Stays P15 then. Where's the next Mercedes then? Beast then stays P2. Unfortunately doesn't improve on his second lap then. Kiki stays in stays P1, keeps pole position I should say then. He has not improved on his final time as well here, but there we are then. That is that then. MHD then is keeping it in track limits then in the second Ravazza then up to the line then. Let's see what MHD can do then. It's a 15.0, puts himself P10 in this qualifying session then. Echo next across the line then in the Racing Bull then. Let's see what he can do then up to the line then. He's not used a lot of battery on this lap then, but up to the line then it's a 6, oh goodness me, it's a 17.6 then. Goodness me, couldn't get me words out then. Casey Jennett is trundling back to the pit lane then, unfortunately down to P17 then, after being blocked I think on his final lap then by a Williams driver of a Kamara Racer, unfortunately. But yes, I'm sure that will be dealt with in the reporting section. But there we are then into the goodness me, it seems to be a bit laggy for me, but I'm hoping it's just my internet and not the lobby internet. But there we go. There is your classification then for, as we have got MHD's got a 5-place grid penalty for something as well then. Kiki then P1 then, pole position for Kiki then, front row lockout for Mercedes once again then. Ultimate Beast P2 then, Plotters P3, Nigel P4, 300p P5 then, Vessia P6, Kamara Racer under investigation from the stewards P7 then, Tonto P8, Gordo P9. Unfortunately MHD's got a 5-place grid penalty, so Irvine P10, Farf P11 then, Echo P12, Jay Hings P13, Mr. Elite P14, MHD P15, Marvsky, Casey, Real Ashton, Riyadh and Reflection round off the top 20, or the 20 I should say, because there's only 20 in the lobby. right then, let's get cracking here for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Right, I need to get the telemetry sorted. Good stuff indeed then. Right then, we of course, if you haven't checked out our sponsors, of course you can check out the ALR shop, then get yourself a nice hoodie. Maybe not so much in this weather, but of course get it ready for Christmas. And then you can of course get yourself some nice ALR t-shirts and ALR boxes as well, which are very nice indeed, very comfortable indeed. Cradles, everything in just the right angles as well then. Fantastic stuff indeed as well. And of course check out our sponsor then, 3D track prints then. Of course, if you want any wall art, any track wall art, that sort of stuff, key rings, anything like that, then they are your one-stop shop then for 3D printed F1 tracks as well. And of course, if you have got any anything else left, then you can check out our lovely sponsor then, mind.org as well. Then they of course are a mental health charity then we support, of course, after a tragic loss then for ALR friend and ALR family member, of course, then a long time ago now, but of course very well remembered then. And of course we've got some fantastic racing here to show then for Silver then. Silver Season 8 Round 7 is about to come alive here in Imola. Medium compound tyres for the majority of the grid. Then we've got hard compound tyres for Reflection in P20 and Riyadh in P19. And then we've got J Hings P13 on the hard compound tyres and Farf P11 on the hard compound tyres. Everybody else is using starting on the optimum medium compound tyre, that is then for the rest of the grid then. So only 4 drivers then on the hard compound. Everybody else, all 16 others then on the medium compound, I should say then. Good stuff indeed. Right then, we are going to get ourselves lined up on the grid then for the start of the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, I think. Eric has said then, let's kick some ass, Nigel then, so he's supporting Nigel then in the kick Sauber tonight then. Very aptly written, I suppose you could say. I'm not quite sure how to say that, but very aptly written then. Kick some ass then in the kick Sauber then. Let's do this. Good stuff indeed then. Right then, all drivers then lined up on the grid, and I think we'll have some red lights coming on here soon, I should say. Yeah, there we go then. 5 red lights coming on here in Imola. The 5 red lights are on, the 5 red lights are out, and away we go then for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. A great start then from Beast. I think it's a great start then from Beast, but his teammate Keychains held on to the lead for the time being as we head into the first chicane. Then there's all sorts of action in the background as well. Then into the first chicane, the Mercedes have led the way very comfortably indeed. Then side by side action in the background as well. Then goodness me, all sorts of action. See side by side into the first and second chicane. Then this is where it's going to get treacherous indeed. Then into the first sector, and Kiki has held the lead then from his teammate then ultimately so far. Good stuff indeed. Tonto and Gordo battling away then through the Tozer corner. Then Tonto holds on to P8 for the time being. Farf up one place, getting himself past Irvine then into P10. And good stuff indeed. Echo's held station then ahead of MHD, who's up 2 places then, passing J Hings and Mr. Elite. Of course, J Hings on the hard compound tyre, so he's not going to be as competitive as those on the medium compound tyre just yet in this race. As we go through Aqua Minerale now as well, then good stuff indeed for all 20 drivers. They're filtered through very nicely indeed as well then, as we get ourselves through the first lap. Then Vessia and Sweet Japan then battling out of the third chicane. Then that's not a very opportune overtaking move, I should say then, but they've tried to go for it anyway. Then Vessia's up into P5. Goodness me, into the first Ravazza then. So far so good then. Not too many changes then, not too many chopping and changes, I should say then, as J Hings has been passed then by Mr. Elite. Of course, J Hings, like I said, on the hard compound tyre, then he's going to have a bit of warm up then to go through in the first couple of laps or so. DRS now available. Then there's only one DRS straight and down here, and that is this main straight here as we go through onto lap 2. Then Gordo's got himself past Tonto into P8, then ahead now of the Haas car into the first chicane. Then goodness me, an epic start indeed then. What a first lap that was. Absolutely brilliant stuff indeed, and all sorts of action all over the place as well. Both the Mercedes looking pretty strong already then in the first lap. They've already tried to get that 1 second gap to P3 of Plotters, and that would of course put him outside of DRS range as well. Then Kamaro's picked up a 3-second penalty. That is the first penalty then of the evening as we go through into the Tozer corner then for the Williams car into sector 2. Now there's flashing lights then in the background in the trees, but I'm not quite sure what that's for. But there we go then. Out in front then, Kiki leads the way still by only 4/10 or half a second, I should say then. 1 second back to Plotters then, which is going to be bad news then for the Red Bull driver then to try and keep up with the race leaders here as we go through the third chicane. Now Nigel all over the back of him. There's going to be DRS then down the main straight this for the first lap the first lap of DRS, I should say. Then, oh dear, Echo's had a problem then somewhere. He's gone off the circuit. Then at the third chicane, just dropping back down the field. Then there's a Red Bull of Yanukovych going through and up into P17 then. Good stuff indeed. And of course, the Plotters is outside of that 1 second window. Beast sets the fastest lap of the race. Then Beast is on a charge now. Can he get himself past his teammate here into the first chicane? Then can he overtake his teammate, or will there be some team orders to play with for the Mercedes team into the first chicane? No moves being made. Nigel's got himself past Plotters then for P3 onto the podium once again then for Nigel. Then he's familiar with the podium places, of course, but not so much recently, so this is looking for a good turn up in the books then for Nigel. Good stuff indeed then out in front, down the order then. Goodness me, that is not how to overtake then from Farf. Tonto covers off the Racing Bull then into Toza corner. Then Farf then looking a bit desperate on those hard compound tyres, but he might have got them warmed up by now. Tonto just trying to get himself back in range of Gordo. Then can he follow Gordo then through this sector 2 is the question. Then can he get himself back in that DRS window as well then of the Aston Martin. Then coming up the hill then now Aqua Minerale. Then Nigel is struggling then because here comes the Red Bull of Plotters then almost into the back end of the Kick Sauber as we go into the third chicane once again then. Goodness me, that was pretty good stuff indeed then from both of them as well. Ploughing down the hill then, out in front then. Beast still challenging his teammate then into the first and second Ravazzas then. Echo and Reflection battling away as well down the order. Beast then is going to be in prime position once again to try and overtake then for the race lead then onto lap 4 here. Power down, DRS down, everything down then. Mr. Elite picks up a penalty then. Here comes Beast then for the race lead then on his teammate Kiki then, and he's got the race lead then. DRS then too powerful down that main straight then. He's got himself up into the race lead then from P2 and now takes hold of the race lead for the first time in this Grand Prix as well. Then Kamara Racer and Sweet MJP. Then goodness me, Sweet MJP and Kamara Racer all over the place then, over the curbs then as well. And Gordo's gone through as well, then up into P7 now. Farf has got himself past Tonto then, but he's also got himself in contention then with the Williams then and the Aston Martin and the Alpine then that have been battling ahead of him as well. Goodness me. What a start then. Even in all from Rocket Lee then supporting the Racing Bulls I think then, but Farf is definitely racing like a bull out there at the moment then. He is well, yes. There we go then. Tonto's gone over the curbs then. Oh goodness me, then he's unsettled the car as well then, majorly as well. Then that is really not good for the Haas driver. Get himself back underway quickly enough then. Casey Jennett picks up a penalty as well then. Irvine trying to get himself past his teammate here then into P10 then. Yes, he is through and up into P10. Casey Jennett has picked up a 3-second penalty as well. Then penalty starting to roll in then on lap 4 here, but it is a penalty inducing circuit then. Lots of track limits that you can try and well, you can try and avoid them, but you can try and that can try and catch you out, I suppose you could say. Out in front then it's Kiki now trying to return the favour. Then can he get himself back in front then in this on the next lap? Then literally he's only led for 1 lap then as Beast then, but Kiki takes back the place then as we got a yellow flag. It's Mr. Elite I think then. Mr. Elite's off the circuit at the first turn then, or maybe at the exit of the second Ravazza I should say then. Goodness me, he's had an issue then somewhere that unfortunately, but he's back underway then. MHD drifting it through the corners then, and Tonto then is trying to get himself in that as well then. Goodness me, that is, like I said, it's getting a bit dangerous then in the first and second chicanes here. Vessia then has passed Plotters then. Plotters had an issue then somewhere because the Ferrari driver was behind there, but he's made the move stick then, has Vessia up into P4 onto the second row of the grid as it stands then. 3 seconds the gap between Nigel and the top 2 then. Nigel almost losing the car through there as he's kept it under control thankfully just in time then. Just a bit of good car correction as well then, heading through into Aqua Minerale as well then for lap 5. So far so good then. Vessia now challenging for that final podium place then. Plotters down into P5 then, losing 2 places. Then Nigel picks up a 3-second penalty then for his troubles then on lap 5 then. Like I said, penalties are going to be key around here, and keeping the penalties down are going to be key around here for sure as we go through into the remainder of lap 5. Let's switch on to the tyre compounds and see what everyone is doing then with their strategies. We've got a lot of medium compound tyres out there, as I said then, on the starting grid. Then 16 drivers on the medium compound tyres, then 4 drivers, sorry, on the hard compound tyres. Beast takes back the lead then as Jay Hings picks up a penalty as well then. Multiple warnings there are tumbling in then. Vessia then ahead of Nigel then into the first chicane. Then he's got the move, then he's got the podium place now for Vessia. But can Nigel and Plotters and Gordo and Sweet 100p now has caught up to the battle as well. Then can they all challenge then for that final podium place? We'll have to wait and see as Nigel then is going to try and hold on to that DRS then into sector 2 as well. Then down the order we've had Casey Jennett off the circuit then. Goodness me, where's he gone? He's off the circuit then at the second chicane, then coming back on the circuit here as well then. Goodness me, that was tight indeed. And there's a bit of polystyrene then trying to get himself inside the car as well then. Unfortunately for Casey Dennett, not going his way at this stage of the race then. He's now down behind Mr. Elite then, who's having a few issues then. What's happened to Real Ashton Army? I think he's struggling out there. Plotter's picked up a penalty as well then. Like I said, it's getting a bit, only lap 6 then, and we've got penalties all tumbling in. Then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, then 7 drivers with penalties on lap 6 so far. Goodness me. Racing balls in need, but if that kick Alpine appears, then we'll see. As of course, the kick Alpine then will make an appearance at some point in the stream, no doubt. Yeah, it's very terrifying when that does. Lap 7 then has commenced. Then both of the Mercedes then storming off into the distance here as we take to the 7th lap now of this Grand Prix. We're almost at the quarter waypoint then of the race. Favre's got himself past Kamara Racer then into P8. Then has he? Yes, he has just about. Then we've got Nigel back past Vess. No, we haven't got Nigel back past Vess. Yes, we have got Nigel back past Vess. Yeah, goodness me, they're going to go side by side through here and into the second chicane. Then yellow flags. Yellow flags is for Plotters. I think Plotters had an issue then somewhere. 3-second penalty for Kamara Racer and for Echo. And I think the Red Bull drivers had an issue somewhere in the first chicane then. Goodness me. I'm not quite sure what happened then to the Red Bull, but he's having more issues then as MHD has gone past into P10. Now Plotter's dropping outside the top 10 then for the first time in this race as well, and goodness me, then that's not good news then. Oh my god, both of them having different issues then through that corner, and thankfully both of them keeping it within track, or in the track I should say then, not within track limits then, but keeping it on the track at least for the time being. Then Riyadh is up into P12 then, looking good then for Riyadh then so far on those hard compound tyres. Far picked up a penalty as well then. Penalties, like I said, started to tumble in here in this Grand Prix. Then 4 seconds the gap between Vessia and the 2 race leaders, the 2 Mercedes then, who were storming off in the distance at this stage of the race as well. Then here comes Kiki then back for the race lead. Then can he get himself back past Beast here? And these two, I think, working together at this stage then to just try and extend the gap then to the rest of the field. Then of course they're going to have to try and decide to when they're going to stop as well, because they're going to have to change that around as well at some point. Then Nigel takes back P3, then ahead now of the Ferrari into the first chicane. There's all sorts of action in the background, and the swing the P tumbles into the first chicane right behind Favre. Kamara holding on to this battle as well. Then Irvine's got himself up into this battle too. Tonto's had a problem. Tonto's had a problem there somewhere. Where's Tonto gone? Goodness me, he's off the circuit there as well completely, and he's crashed into the wall then, and he's got himself back underway, I think, just about. Yes, he has then. Good stuff indeed then. So Tonto's he's got wing damage there as well. That front left end plate is having a few problems as he has crashed into the wall then on purpose as well there, which unfortunately is not going to be going well for his well, we'll just have to review that then after the race then. We'll have, let's say that. Yeah, unfortunately causing safety cars on purpose is not going to go well for your race. For your next race, I should say then. But there we go then. Unfortunately, Tonto then is not having a good time out there. He is out of the race and he has caused a needless safety car, and we will have a safety car here then to see what we can do now. Of course, I think we might have some pit stop action as well then. The race leaders are coming in, are they? No, Beast is staying out, I think. No, he's not staying out. He is coming in. He can't decide. He has decided now. Good stuff indeed. Then into the pit comes Nigel. Then Farf has stayed out. Then Farf will take this 10-second penalty for Gordo for speeding in the pit lane. That is bad news for Gordo, and a bit of a strange one as well then, because they were calling in the pit lane then. Jay Hings and Farf have stayed out on the hard compound tyres. Kiki onto a hard compound tyre as well then, I should say then. Goodness me. He is going to come out in P3, I would imagine. Irvine is in the pit lane. Yes, he is then. So there's going to be everyone filtering out onto the hard compound tyres then. Can go to the end of the Grand Prix from here. Then we'll have to wait and see then if they will hold up then to the end of the Grand Prix from here. But there we go then. And Gordo has said the classic, the Charles III ride into the Basel section of Azerbaijan. But that is coming up then in the next few races then. There we go. Unfortunately then, so we've got the first retirement of the Grand Prix then, as Real Ashton Army's car has stayed out then. I think he's not even in the car, is he? He is still chugging away there, at least then on the medium compound tyres then. Would be a good opportunity now to pit then for the hard compound for those who started on the mediums, that is. Casey Dennett is back in the race then, same for Mr. Elite as well then. That is good news for those two. Echo then also on the hard compound tyres, same for Plotters then, same for Marvsky. Riyadh going on the medium compound tyres, might have to stop again in this race then. I don't think those mediums will be very good to the end of the Grand Prix from here, but we will find out, of course. We will have to wait and see. One then is challenging into challenging for that top 10 as well. We'll have a look at the position changes now whilst we've got a bit of a lull in proceedings. 10 of course for the top 2, 11 for Jay Hings of course after starting on the hard compact tyres. They have stayed out then under this safety car as we get ourselves bunched up once again then into the pack. Then it won't be too long before we get ourselves back racing again actually as well, as it is only a few seconds between the drivers then after that only 9 laps or only 8 laps have unfolded, but there we go then. Kiki then on the hard compound tyres of course, then Nigel then is also on the hards. We've got a penalty then. We'll have a look at the penalty situation as well. 3 seconds for most, then Gordo unfortunately has got a 10-second penalty then, which will be added to his race time at the end of the race then if he doesn't pit again. Then Kamara's got 6 seconds of penalties, as does Mr. Elite as well. So that is your situation then with the penalties out there. Like I said, it is a penalty-inducing Grand Prix. Then we'll see a lot of track limit penalties then as we go through this Grand Prix. Lap 10 then has commenced. Of course, the good thing about the safety car is that you can't, well, you can, but you can't really get track limit penalties then because you shouldn't be going too fast then to extend the track that much. So the drivers might be quite happy about the safety car coming out. But there we are. So there we go. I think we'll be back racing then at the end of this lap potentially then, because everyone has caught up to the queue now, and we can get ourselves back underway then onto lap 11 then. 22 laps remaining at the end of this one then, so we will see how it's going to unfold then in the rest of this Grand Prix. Of course, Farf and Jay Hings then have not stopped in this Grand Prix. Same for Real Ashton Army then, so he's going to be swallowed up I think then by those who are around him then on the restart, then on much fresher rubber as well. Then we'll have to wait and see as we go through Aqua Minerale as well. We're going to get that indication hopefully soon that the safety car will be back into the pit lane and getting off our screens, and we can get ourselves back underway for some green flag racing then as into the third chicane we go now, as yes, safety car is coming in this lap then, so we can get ourselves ready to restart here. Farf leads us away then for the restart of this race. That is very dangerous stuff indeed then, especially for Farf leading a race that is. But of course he now decides when to drop the hammer and go then for this race restart as well. Into the first Ravazza, then the safety car just going through the second Ravazza, now getting himself out of the way then and into the pit lane, and we can get ourselves racing once again I think here. Farf going to leave it late it looks like then, so he's decided not to drop the hammer then at the early point then. Of course it is a long main straight then, he can decide when to go and when to drop the hammer then, but he's now just wasting his own time then, because Jay Hing can now go for the move and go for the race lead here, as well as we got a very it's a very dodgy restart that. My goodness me then, that was definitely not very good from my point of view. Then Kiki's already got himself past Jay Hings, has he? In towards the first chicane, then going to go around the outside. Then he's gone off the circuit completely then as Kiki. He's got a 3-second penalty. Then Kiki coming back on the circuit. Then it's a dangerous spot then for the Mercedes Rover, but there's an Alpine of Swindon going through and up into P8 then, as unfortunately for Kiki then he misjudged it, went on the grass I think then as well, and got the penalty for his troubles as well then. Nigel then has been overtaken by Beast, then there's a Ferrari, there's an Aston Martin all over the back of them as well as we go up the hill then from Tozer then into sector 2. Goodness me then, that was interesting, that restart. Oh my god. But Kiki's now got a bit of work to do to try and get himself back up the order then where he was before the pit stop phases as well, then into Aqua Minerale as well. Then Nigel's now got he's got Gordo all over his back now as we go up the hill then towards sector 3 then. Both the drivers who didn't pit then, so Jay Hings and Farf then, have led the restart then and have kept hold of their places then on the restart as well then, despite having 8-lapper older tyres. They have done pretty well then on those hard compound tyres then. Reflections got himself past Plotters then. I think Plotters is having a few issues out there because he's struggling now, unfortunately, after that first few laps then in towards lap 12 I should say. Then here comes Jay Hings then, he's on the attack now is Jay Hings, actually going for the move then for the race leader, but here comes Ultimate Beast as well. Then Beast has got some fresher tyres and he's got some more ERS I think. He's got himself past Jay Hings into turn 1, yes he has, and up into P2 then for Ultimate Beast, and of course challenging then for, oh my goodness me then, what is that in the background there as well then? A Ferrari going off, an Aston Martin I think was involved as well then, as we fly through the second chicane. Of course there's drivers in who was on older hard compound tyres. Ultimate Beast has got himself back up into the race lead here, and now Nigel then is trying to challenge then both Jay Hings and Farf, of course, who are on the older hard compound tyres. Up the hill we go then towards Sector 2. Yellow flags in the background. There's all sorts of issues, and I think then down the back of the field, Kamara Race has got himself through. Reflection's got himself through. 300p's dropped down behind Mr. Elite as well here, as there's some sort of problem, I think, for Mr. First 300p as well then, unfortunately for him, because he was challenging in P8 then at the time, but unfortunately he's dropped down to P16 there as well then. Goodness me. It's not been a great, not been a silver. Oh dear, well, it's about Jay Hings definitely off the circuit there. But yeah, it's not been a customary silver restart then in terms of the cleanliness out there. But of course, it's a very narrow track as well. Then it's not got many overtaking opportunities. So drivers getting a bit desperate, I think, out there, and are sending it corners that shouldn't be sent into. But there we are. Here comes Nigel then on the attack. Then he's got more battery than I think than Jay Hings. And we go through the main straight then onto the first chicane then, and Jay Hings just getting out the way then of his teammate then, but Vassia then, oh goodness me, Vassia trying to get himself involved as well in that one, and goodness me, probably not the opportune movement then for Vassia then as well, but goodness me, they've got themselves untangled, I think, just about is what the word I think we should be, but there we go. Jay Hings dropping down to P5, then Farf is holding on to P2 at the moment, but Mr. Elite picked up another penalty there. Farf then is under pressure now from Nigel then, who's on fresher hard compound tyres, same for Gordo as well then. Jay Hings is going to have to hope that there's another safety car or something in this race then to get himself back in this race later on in the event then. Kiki's got himself back up into P7 now and challenging then Vassia into Aqua Minerale here as well. So far so good then for Kiki on the recovery in this race, and can he get himself back on the podium? I think he can with this pace as well. Of course, there's two drivers ahead yet to pit in this race as well for Kiki, from his point of view that is, and that is Jay Hings and Farf, of course then, so there's still time. There is still time then for them. Of course, Vassia then gets himself up into P5, I should say, passing Jay Hings as well, then yet to pit. Casey Jennett picks up a penalty as well, and then there's all sorts of action down the back of the field then. Reflection and Mr. Elite then switching places then into the first and second Ravazas there, which is an odd place to go, but Mr. Elite's got up into P14. Nigel got himself past Farf now with some DRS, I think, then into the first chicane, and so does Jay Hings as well. Jay Hings going to go for the move then. No, it's Gordo, sorry, Gordo has got himself through. Got the Aston Martins confused then, but they're both number 5. But there we go, Gordo up into the podium places because he got that 10-second penalty then. He's going to have to hope that Farf holds everyone up here for a long time to be able to create that 10-second gap then to the rest of the field then. So far so good then, out in front then, 2 seconds the gap between Nigel and Ultimate Beast then. Currently Nigel then on P2, a net P2 that is as well, after the pit stops as well. Then Farf then down to P4, then yet to pit. Then Jay Hings has been passed by Kiki now into Sector 2. Then Kiki up into P6 now and challenging Vassia for the next position as well. Then MHD onto a fresh set of a hard compound tyre, Riyadh into the top 10 as well. Then after starting from the back of the grid, he's looking to get himself into the top 10 here. So far so good then. Vassia now all over the back of Farf, then he's pushing that racing ball then through the corners here. Farf then losing the grip then on the older hard compound tyres. They should be able to go on for another few laps though, but compared to the fresher tyres that are pitted under that safety car, not so good then compared to those much fresher 5-lap-old tyres then for Vassia, for Kiki, and for the others around him as well. Then Marvsky picks up a penalty as well, unfortunately for Marvsky in the Alpine. Here comes Vassia then on the attack. Can he get himself up into P4 then? Can he get himself past the racing bull here as we go on the power then down the main straight? Yes, he can. He's side by side, but he's got himself through. His nose is ahead then. He's up into P4 and he is past the racing bull driver. Very good stuff indeed then. All action here in silver then, blimey, as we go through the second chicane now as well. Then Kiki all over the back of Farf this time as well. Then can he make a late move into Tozer? Then down the inside, there's contact between the two of them, I think. As goodness me, I'm not quite sure. Kiki then went for a very late lunge there, and it looked like he went almost into the side of Farf, then going through the Tozer corner, but he has managed to keep himself intact. And they're both intact as well, which is good stuff indeed. Gordo's got himself past Nigel, then up into P2 for Gordo. But of course, like I said, penalties permitting, we're only halfway through the race here as well. Then there could be some more penalties racking up then in this Grand Prix as we go through the rest of the race. Then Irvine's got himself past Jay Hings now into the third chicane. Then he's up into a P7. Is Irvine? Echo's got a 3-second penalty as well. Then Plotters has passed 300p. Somewhere down the order. Then 300p is slowing down. Then he's had another problem. Then has the Alpine car. Reflection's gone through as well then into P16. Then Casey Dennett next to line up a move then on the Alpine car. Vessier then sets the fastest lap of the race, then Vessier's on a charge, then here comes Nigel, then passes Gordon, then here comes Vessier as well, then trying to get himself past the Aston Martin, then in towards turn 1, not quite, then later on the brakes then for Gordon, and he holds on to the podium place then for the time being, that is, as we go through into lap 16, then halfway through this race. Goodness me. Sorry. Halfway through this race, so far so good then, as Kiki picks up a penalty. Then that is treacherous stuff indeed for Kiki then, especially if he wants to get himself back on the podium then at this pace. Then Plotters picks up a penalty as well then. Only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 drivers without a penalty so far in this Grand Prix, and that is I think that's going to be very costly indeed towards the end of the Grand Prix as well. Then MHD is one of them. He's got himself past Jay Hings as well now, in towards sector 2 and up into P8 now for the Aqua Minerale section of the track as well. Then trying to chase down Irvine, who is up in P7 then just ahead here. Oh my goodness, he's gone wide though. I thought he was going to let Jay Hings back through there, but not quite then for the Aston Martin driver. Then he has to sit behind for the time being. Then Vessier and Gordo then battling down the hill in towards the first revat. So there's contact, which is not how you drive really, but there you go, as we go through onto lap 17 now, and Vessier has got himself ahead into the podium place. He's now trying to chase down Nigel, who is currently in P2 but does have a penalty to his name. Then Vessier, no penalties for the time being. Lap 17 has commenced here. Gordon trying to chase down Vessier as well. Then Kiki is now in the fight for the top 5 as well. Then Farf has been let go by the top 5 as it stands then, or by P2 down to P5 I should say. And Echo picked up a penalty as well then. Like I was saying, penalties are common around this circuit for sure then, with the track limits, and you just got to keep going then, keep your head down and keep trying to minimise them as well, because there could be a lot of drivers ahead of them with more penalties as well. Then Jay Hings off the circuit there and not having a good time then into the second chicane. Then now around the outside goes Reflection on his medium compound tyres. Goodness me, I thought there was going to be some contact there, but Reflection has got himself through, then up into P14 now. Reflection, one of the drivers as well, but without any penalties then to his name, which is going to be very promising stuff indeed if he can keep up the pace. Then Plotters almost into the back then of Jay Hings into the Aqua Minerale section of the circuit as well. Then, of course, Jay Hings on much older tyres than the rest of the field, which is going to be bad news indeed for him, and Farf as well then, who is also on the same strategy later on in this race. Then 3 seconds the gap then to the race leader for Beast then compared to Nigel. Then here comes Vessier then round the second revat. Nigel then almost losing the back end, then that's going to be opening the door then for Vessier then with some DRS then to get himself up into P2 here and fly through then onto the podium places then, but into second in the podium places. Then Kiki passes Gordo as well then into P4 then for Kiki. Then Nigel dropping down to P3, then Vessier up into P2, then no penalties then for the top 2 as it stands, which is pretty good stuff indeed. Then MHD then is all over the back of Irvine as well. Then MHD has no penalties, same for Riyadh then in P9, and Riyadh is chasing down Farf as well. Then yellow flags in the background is for a Red Bull car. So Red Bull car's off the circuit then at the first chicane, and it is Plotters unfortunately. Then Casey Jennings has got himself past Jay Hings then and up into P15 now, and carrying on then very nicely indeed in the Ferrari. Then unfortunately got more yellow flags then. It's an Alpine of Sweet MGP then. Sweet MGP's had another issue as well, and slowing down out there as well. Then Kamara Racer and Riyadh then, oh my goodness me, not an overtaking position really there, but that was very much on the money then for Riyadh then to get himself back past the Williams car. Then all over the back now with Farf, who is starting to hold up these drivers as well here, I think, as we go through then onto lap 19 very shortly now. Unfortunately for Ashton, then I think he's not in the car. I think he's having a few issues then with his connection then to get himself back in this race. Then Echo's got himself down the inside then of Kamara Racer. Goodness me, Farf picks up a penalty then in the other racing ball. Then Echo up into P10 and challenging now for the points paying positions as well. Then of course he has picked up a penalty for his troubles as well, I think there, but he's got himself into the top 10 for the time being as well. Then here comes Riyadh on the attack, then got himself past Farf very nicely indeed, and up into P8 now for the Red Bull driver. Then good stuff indeed for the for one Red Bull driver, unfortunately not going the way then as Kiki's off the circuit. Then Kiki's had a problem then at the exit of the first chicane. Then he is losing a lot of places here as well as the drivers fly through. Here comes Casey Jennett in the background as well. Then goodness me, Casey's gone through as well then, as has Jay Hings as well. Now, unfortunately for Kiki, then it's gone from bad to worse then in this race so far then into toes, and then he's down to P16 then and trying to get himself back underway then and back past one of the drivers who's on the older hard compound tyres then in the form of Jay Hings as well as we go up the hill then into sector 2. Then he has got himself back past, but unfortunately then for Kiki then really struggling out there at certain points. Then he's not got himself not got the composure under his belt that he had from the previous round, of course, where he got his podium then in Miami. Then unfortunately for Kiki, then it's not going his way at this stage of the race. Then there's still time though. There is still time, and there we go. Then 3 seconds the gap then for the race lead. Then Nigel then is right behind Vassia. Then we've got Gorda then waiting in the wings. Then can Gorda create a 10-second gap then to the rest of the field for the drivers behind him? Can Gorda hold on to a P4 here? We'll have to wait and see. He's got almost a 3-second gap to Irvine already, as MHD lining up a move then on the on Irvine as well. Then as Irvine then has lost out, then P5 now for the McLaren up into P5. Then Echo's got himself past his teammate then into P8, passes Farf then, who's starting to struggle now on those hard compound tyres. Now Kamara Racer next to try and challenge the first or the second of the racing balls now into the second chicane. Then into lap 20 we go, then flying through these laps as well. Then here for Silver, then can Kamara go for a late move then into Tozer? Not quite. Then he thinks better of it, which is fair enough then, to be fair, especially when we got Farf around. But there we go, then up the hill we go then for Farf, for Kamara I should say then, front line of move then, but not quite then on the back of the racing ball, then flying through there very nicely indeed. But again, they're losing time now to Echo, losing time to those ahead as well as we go through Aqua Minerale here now, almost pushing that Williams diffuser through the circuit, through the corner there, as we go into sector 3. Then there's an Alpine. Oh god, my goodness me, then that was dangerous stuff indeed, and that was over ambitious stuff indeed. My god. What was that then from, I think it was from Marvsky in the Alpine then. I don't know what was going on there, what were you thinking in that one there, but unfortunately that is not going to help your race, unfortunately for Marvsky. Then Reflection getting a bit squirrely out there. The medium compact tyres might be starting to get worse for wear out there for Reflection as well. We'll have to wait and see then. We've got Irvine then back past MHD then for P5. Then Nigel's got himself back past Vessia into P2. And trying to challenge then, hold on for that, as Kamara Racer is retired in the pit lane now and left the session as well then, unfortunately. Echo's had a problem as well then. He's off. Where's he gone? At the exit of the first chicane then, he's flown off the circuit there, but he's got himself back underway then. Mr. Elite has been passed by Marvsky again. Then Marvsky is on some sort of rampage out there, it looks like, as Kiki has got himself past Mr. Elite as well then into the Tozer corner. Then yellow flags fluttering, I think, for Kamaro's car that's coming out of the pit lane. Then he's pit and quit, unfortunately, in this race then, which is going to be very costly for him as well, because it's going to be one license point added on to his tally then for the season. But there we go then, out into Aqua Minerale once again. Then Mr. Elite then trying to catch up to the back of the queue. Marvsky picks up a 3-second penalty then for his troubles. Then it's not gone too well then for Marvsky in the last couple of laps then, but he's into the top 10 now. Plotters has got himself past Echo then into P15 I should say then, as now we go through into sector 3 then for those drivers as well. Out in front, 4.5 seconds the gap for Beast. Then he's got Vess here and Nigel then battling away then behind as well. As here comes Vess here then on the charge. Can he get himself back home into P2 then before the end of this main straight? Yes, he can then. Up into P2 then for the Ferrari then at his home Grand Prix. Good stuff indeed then. Irvine then putting himself past MHD then on this occasion, on this lap I should say. As Riyadh then up into P7, then Reflection up into P8, then passing Farf down the main straight. Then of course we will have to wait and see then when Farf will come into the pit lane. Then we've got more yellow flags. It's for Echo then. Echo's in the pit lane. He's pit and quit as well then. So that's fantastic. But there we go then. Just people giving up then in the Grand Prix is lovely to see, isn't it? Because I've got to sit here and commentate in this boiling hot room for the whole 32 laps then, regardless. But there we go. Reflection picks up a penalty as well then. I think that's Reflection's first penalty as well then, which is bad news then. Nigel's had a problem then out of the Aqua Minerale section. Now that's cost him the DRS then to Vess here as well. Then Vess here might try and scamper off into the distance here as well. Then yellow flags are still fluttering then for somebody retiring in the pit lane and pitting and quitting, so that's great. Marvsky's been passed by Kiki into P10, then back into the top 10 now for Kiki as well. Then on the charge then on those hard compound tyres, trying to recover then after 2 mishaps in this race. Unfortunately for him, we can still, hopefully we can get ourselves back underway for some racing. We've got more problems as well then. We've got even more problems as well in the pit lane, I think then. Yellow flags still fluttering for somebody, but I think they've sorted themselves out now, thankfully. But there we go then. Nigel's lost out to the DRS. No, we've got more yellow flags once again then, because why not? Just why not? Goodness me. I think it might just be Real Ashton just letting the cars come through as well, which is fair play to Real Ashton. But Nigel then, oh God, we've got Aston Martin off the circuit now as well. Then it's Jay Hings off the circuit at turn 1 well, not turn 1, at the it's out in the chicane then. Marvsky and Mr. Elite battling away again then for Marvsky then trying to get himself involved as well then. Jay Hings I think has recovered then. He has, I think, might have lost an end plate there for the Aston Martin driver. Unfortunately, Kiki picks up another penalty then for his troubles. Then there's going to be penalties rolling in here on this occasion then. Gordo then is up into P4. He's got some DRS now on Nigel as well. Then Nigel's lost out then to the Ferrari of Vessia. Kiki's got himself past Farf then into the Sector 3 chicane. No, he hasn't, because Farf has come right back at him, and Marvsky's gone through then for P10 as well then. Kiki trying to get himself back through here, down towards the first Ravazza then, and he has done. But goodness me, Farf then decided just to send it then into the third chicane. Goodness me. What the hell is going on, says Mushroom. I'm not quite sure what the hell is going on, Mushroom. Gordo up into P3 then, ahead now of Nigel, but of course penalties permitting. Nigel will claim that spot back as well. Actually potentially he won't, because MHD is quite close with no penalties as it stands as well then. Kiki couldn't get himself back past Farf then. Farf holds on to P9 then. I don't think Farf has realised that he has to pit in this race, so he is just holding up people behind him now, which is brilliant stuff indeed. But there we go then. I suppose he is technically entitled to do it because he is not a lapped car, but yes, this is great. Right then, Jay Hings has pitted then for medium compound tyres. Then he's back underway. Then potentially can go for a fastest lap point in this Grand Prix. We'll have to wait and see then who's going to pinch that fastest lap then at the end. Gordo's been passed then by Nigel then into Sector 3 then, so a bit of an odd place to overtake. But he's got himself through. Then has Nigel then on the attack now, back up into the podium places as it stands as well. Then MHD has caught up to this battle, as has Irvine as well then. But so far so good then for this trio. This quadruple, I should say. They're not the trio. Marvsky and Kiki then switching places. Then Kiki losing out then once again to the Alpine driver. Mr. Elite is caught up to this fight as well, as we've got more yellow flags, I think, for Real Ashton, just letting the cars go through once again for the kick Sauber car. Into the pits comes Farf finally. Good stuff indeed. Then Gordo's back past Nigel, then into P3 then, but of course we will look at the penalty situations then in just a moment, because we have only got a few laps to go then at the end of this one. I think we've got 6 laps to go at the end of this one, so there's still time then for penalties to roll in, of course. So I'm sure we'll see some more penalties coming in as well. MHD is now on the back of Nigel, being passed by Gordo, then down the main straight. Gordo now into P3, but of course penalty-wise, he is technically not in P3 because he's got a 10-second penalty that will demote him down the order. Then I think he'll stay in the points then as it stands, but we'll have to wait and see then where he would finish. But he's got some good pace then to try and at least keep himself in the top 10. Then more yellow flags then for Real Ashton, I think, letting more cars go through. But yeah, unfortunately it has not gone the way then for Real Ashton at this stage of the Grand Prix. Mr. Elite picks up a penalty. That is 15 seconds now for Mr. Elite. Unfortunately, I think that has cost him his chance then of a top 10 finish here in Imola tonight then. But it is, like I said, a penalty pounder this circuit then. So there we go then. Nigel now is all over the back of Gordo once again then. This time is lining up a move then for the podium place again as well. Then MHD though has no penalties, would take away that podium place then from Nigel as it stands then. Potentially if Riyadh can get himself into contention as well, then he could try and steal that some more places as well with his lack of penalties in P7 as it stands. On lap 26 then of 32, we've got 6 laps remaining at the end of this one. It is going pretty well then for Ultimate Beast. And we haven't seen Ultimate Beast out there for quite a long while, but there he is. He is cruising through Sector 2 now. He's got a 7-second gap then in the race lead then, and he is cruising very nicely indeed. His car number 66, I think then, up into Aqua Mineral as well. We've got a Red Bull off the circuit. No, it's a Racing Bull off. No, it's a Red Bull off the circuit of Plotters then. Plotters having an issue out there and trying to get himself back underway then. Reflection and Kiki then switching places then into Sector 2. Goodness me, there's Marvsky all over the back of them as well. And like I said, I don't think Marvsky's realised that he's just reserving tonight, because he has just been sending it all over the place, let's say. So there we go then. Riyadh has picked up a penalty, unfortunately for Riyadh. Those old medium compound tyres then starting to struggle, I think, out there, and unfortunately has picked up his first penalty then of the evening as well then in the Red Bull. But he's safe for now. He could hold on to that P7 then. If he can get those medium compound tyres to the end of the Grand Prix from here, it will be a push and a half for sure. Gordo then on the back now of Nigel once again. Then Marvsky picks up a penalty as well. The penalties are all rolling in here as well. Here comes Gordo, then passes Nigel then into turn 1. Yellow flag, and it is for Plotters. again. Then he's off the circuit at the third chicane this time. Lost the left end plate then for the Red Bull driver, unfortunately. Trying to get himself back underway here, but he is back underway here now as well then, so that's good stuff indeed. Marski then lining up a move again then for the for that P9 position then, and trying to get himself through then on the Williams of Reflection. Mr. Elite picks up another penalty, unfortunately for Mr. Elite. This is just compounding his race then with the penalty situation. But he has now got 18 seconds, then 9 seconds for Casey, 9 for Marski as well then. So unfortunately for those two, they won't gain any places either then, I don't think, at the end of this race. Then we'll have to wait and see. Then yellow flags. It's for Kiki again. And like I was saying, gaining places. Then he has gained a place then because Kiki is off the circuit here. Trying to get himself back underway then, but unfortunately for Kiki, the race that was going so well at the very beginning, then leading the race for a long period of the Grand Prix before the safety car, has been costly since that safety car as well. Then unfortunately for the Mercedes driver, then one Mercedes driver then doing well, then the other one has not had the luck here tonight. Then unfortunately then for Kiki, as he tries to get himself back underway here as well. Then Nigel's back past Gordon, then up into P3, back up into P3, then down the main straight, then once again then for the Kick Sauber team, and now trying to challenge then, trying to get himself after Vessia. Then can he is the question. 1.9 seconds the gap, then Reflection back past Marski, down the main straight. Then here comes Mr. Elite as well. Then Mr. Elite's got himself through into P9 there. Brilliant stuff indeed then, but again, penalty wise, I don't think it's going to be enough then for the McLaren driver then, as he's going to try and get himself past Reflection as well here in towards the second chicane. Then close stuff indeed then, and goodness me, he snuck himself through then, as Mr. Elite. Sorry, very nicely done indeed. Marski can go around the outside at Tozer, then round Reflection, then of course Reflection on much older tyres as well, on medium compound tyres. Kiki pitting for the soft compound tyre, trying to go for that fastest lap point in this Grand Prix here. Potentially we will see that on the cards then. Real Ashton, I think, just letting the Red Bull driver go through. But goodness me, fast times coming in then for Kiki and for Farf, then potentially for some others as well. Then outside the top 10 then can go for the fastest lap point here and go for that extra point as well in this Grand Prix. Out in front then, Beast has started lap 29 of 32. The driver of the day is out. There we go. Comment section then, Beast, Vessia, Nigel and Riyadh are your candidates then for the driver of the day. Then there is the penalty situation then for those drivers as well. Currently none for Vessia and for Beast, none for MHD then in P5. Gordo trying to line up a move then into turn 1, not quite then on Nigel. He has to sit behind for the time being. Then the gap coming down now to Vessia, 1.6 seconds, 1.5 seconds now in favour then of the Ferrari then over Nigel. Then has picked up a penalty as well. Then same for Gordo as well. Then goodness me, that is bad news indeed, as they are going to be under pressure now from Irvine as well potentially. And Riyadh, I think, is too far back. I think Riyadh then is just trying to get himself to the end of this Grand Prix without any punctures now on those medium compound tyres. But he's done a fantastic job. Then we'll look at the position changes. There we are. So there we go, then 1 place for Beast, 4 for Vessia, then 1 for Nigel, then 5 for Gordo, 10 for MHD, then 4 for Irvine as well. Then potentially there could be more in it with the penalty situation as well. Then Riyadh has gained 12 places. I think he'll stay there with the penalty situations then for the drivers around him as well, and the drivers behind him, that is, as Marvsky's gained 7 places, then Reflection has gained 10 places as well then, but I think might lose out then. Plotters is in the pit lane then for a set of soft compound tyres and back underway then. He is not on the lead lap anymore, unfortunately, for the Red Bull driver then, so that's going to be, I think he has been made aware of that then, as Casey has picked up a 3-second penalty going through the third chicane, and that is where it's getting dangerous out there for the penalty situations, I think. As we go on to lap 30 then of 32, then we've got 2.5 laps remaining of this Grand Prix here. So far so good then. Kiki then is right behind Jay Higgins now as well. Then he might get a nice dosage of DRS then down the main straight on lap 31 then to try go for his fastest lap of the race here. We'll have to wait and see. Then Jay Higgins might just dive into the pit lane as well. Then we'll have to find out what Jay Higgins is going to do. But so far so good. Then out in front, 8.3 seconds the gap then for the race leader over Vessia. Then Nigel then 1.9 seconds behind in P3, but they both picked up penalties, himself and Gordo. Then so now MHD is in prime position for that third place on the podium as it stands. Then Irvine could gain 2 places as well here with the likes of Gordo and Nigel's penalties as well. Then he's sticking close then to the Aston Martin and the kick as well, because he knows that there could be some more points then in his eye line. Then Kiki sets the fastest lap of the race, then he is flying out there, and off he goes then for the Mercedes driver. Then fastest lap then is an extra point then, of course, no matter where you finish, so long as you do finish the race, that is, in ALR racing. So there we are. Marvsky then passes Mr. Elite, then Casey picks up another 3-second penalty. Unfortunately for Casey, then it's not been his first debut race then that he would have hoped then, but of course he has done a good job then of soldiering on in this race, especially after the first stint then where he was put to the back of the field then by somebody who was a bit over ambitious. Nigel's been passed then by Gordo, then Gordo up into P3 there, but of course these two will not hold on to their places then with the penalty situations then in the latter part of the end of the lap, I should say, the end of the race. Mr. Elite back past Marvsky then into P8. Now yellow flags for a Red Bull. It's not for Riyadh. I think it's for Plotters then just letting his teammate go past. Part back in the pit lane now. So he has called it a day on the soft compound tyres already then. So that's interesting stuff indeed. Good stuff then for good stuff then indeed. So for the 17 drivers that remain in this one. Unfortunately for Echo, then he pit and quit. Then same for Kamara Racer, and Tonto then caused the safety car with a big crash on lap 8. Jay Hings is in the pits as well. Jay Hings calling it a day then on the medium compound tyres, but he's going to be, I think he's going to be lapped then, is Jay Hings. So unfortunately, I don't think he's going to be able to go for the fastest lap point here. Farf has also been lapped as well. Then Farf picks up a 3-second penalty. Then he's going to have to try and get himself part. Oh no, he's definitely been lapped. Where's he gone? No, that's Kiki then. Oh, so Farf hasn't been lapped, sorry, but Kiki's got a 3-second penalty as well then. Jay Hings has now been lapped then, and this is the rest of the field then going through. MHD's got himself past Nigel, then Irvine's got himself past Nigel as well then. Goodness me then, unfortunately for, as we're on to lap 32 then, of 32 here, unfortunately for Nigel then, he has dropped down to P6 then, but I think he's going to hold on to P6 as it stands as well. Marvsky and Mr. Elite then switching places then down the main straight onto lap 32 then. Reflection's been passed by Sweet 100P, as we've got a problem then for an Aston Martin. It's for Jay Hings. Jay Hings is off. Jay Hings is off the circuit. He's got a right end plate missing as well. Then, goodness me. Unfortunately for Jay Hings, not going his way then on this final lap, I should say. Then 9.6 seconds the gap then for this man here, Beast, then who's going to retake the lead of the championship then after he held it from race 1, I should say, for quite a while then. Mumford then of course not here tonight then, not challenging tonight then, and Beast then has taken full advantage then with another race win. I'm going to jinx it now, through the second Ravazza first, with another race win. This is his third win on the bounce then here in Imola. Then it is a hat-trick of wins then for Beast here in Emilia-Romagna. What a win then from Beast then to take back the championship lead as well. A fantastic performance then from the Mercedes driver. Then claims the first hat-trick, I think, of wins at a Grand Prix then so far in this ALR stint, I suppose you could say. Then P1 then for Beast, then fantastic stuff indeed. Vessia then P2, brilliant race then from Vessia as well. Then 24 laps of course for these drivers on the hard compound tyres. Then MHD P3, Irvine P4 as well. Then Nigel P5 with Gordo's penalty putting in P6 in the end. Then Riyadh P7, then Reflection P8, Marvsky P9, and Sweet 100P then rounds off the top 10. Then Mr. Elite unfortunately a P11 I should say. Casey P12, goodness me, Farf P11 I think, and Kiki P14, Jay Hings P15, and Plotters P16, Real Ashton Army then will cross the line P17, Echo, Kamara Racer and Tonto P18 down to P20, unfortunately all retired in this Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. My word. There we go then, what a race indeed then. A fantastic race win then for Beast, then top of the order then for the Mercedes driver, then back on top in the championship standings as well, then fantastic stuff indeed. Then Vessia then P2 here in Imola, then for Ferrari then at their home Grand Prix, and MHD in P3 then for the McLaren team there on the podium places then on the third step. Then brilliant stuff indeed then from all drivers who got to the checkered flag in this one. And of course penalties were a nightmare in this Grand Prix, but that was always going to be the case then, as we are very, very well aware of that. But well done indeed then for those who kept the penalties clean. And of course the top two, no penalties then for Vessia and for Ultimate Beast then in their race wins, their race escapades, whatever you want to call it. I think MHD didn't get any penalties either, so the top three then no penalties on the podium. What a surprise. But there we go then, brilliant stuff indeed. And ultimately just claimed the driver of the day then with 50% of the vote as well. Brilliant stuff from Beast. Then there he goes. Then race win and the driver of the day to go with it as well. Then Vessia P2, MHD rounds off the podium. Then Irvine, Nigel, Gordo, Riyadh, Reflection, Marvsky and Swifter P round off the top 10. Then Favre gets the fastest lap of the race. Then on the final lap, then there is the 10 outside the top 10, I should say. There you go. Brilliant stuff indeed. Good stuff then. Thanks very much for joining us, everybody. We have a quick interview or two, I think, for the top three. There we go. We'll start off with MHD. MHD, then a fantastic race from yourself. Then you gained quite a lot of places, then especially on the hard compound tyres, and have kept it clean with no penalties as well. Then, how was that race for yourself, then, sir?
Yeah, thank to you. Yeah, just yesterday I decided to attend the race. That's why, like in the quali, the pace was so bad, and also in quali I made a mistake and I saw like one of the cars DNF. It makes you so frustrated. But in the race, I just keep calm in the race and just waited for a penalty because from the stream like yesterday, I saw so many cars gonna get penalty, so I was just relying on the penalties that other cars gonna get. Also, the safety car helped me so much. It was on the right time. And also so many cars DNF'd on the track, so I think that's what helped me. But the pace was not there today for me.
Well, you still had a fantastic race, and like you said, that minimised the penalties in the Grand Prix, and that really helped you gain quite a lot of places at the end of that race as well. And well, what's it like then to be on the podium then in the McLaren then here in Imola? Then did you expect a podium in that race, or were you just hoping for the best?
No. I was just aiming to be like P8, P9, just relying on the penalties the driver's gonna get. But podium was just out of sight for me tonight. But it was a surprise for me also, like to get podium here.
Fantastic stuff indeed, and hopefully we'll see you back then for some more of that, because that was a brilliant race from yourself there. Really good stuff from MHD. Then a podium then for McLaren here in Imola. Good stuff from you as well. Hopefully see you back next week. We've got Vessia then P2. In the Ferrari, then a fantastic race again from yourself as well. And like I said to MHD, no penalties then for yourself. To be fair, there are no penalties for the podium sitters, which is, like I said, a bit ironic. Not really ironic, but it's the opposite of ironic, really. But a great race from yourself then, Vessia, and you got yourself a podium. Then I think your best result of the season, if I'm wrong.
Even
but a brilliant race indeed. And how was that then rounded off then for yourself?
Yeah, very good. Had a good start to the race. Quali wasn't great. Safety car restart was a bit hectic. But once I got past Gordo and Nigel, I kind of just conserved, knowing that I was one warning away from a pen. So I knew I wasn't going to catch up to Ultimate Beast without running off the circuit. So I just stayed cool, kept it on circuit, knowing that P2 was the only option for tonight. So yeah.
And were you expecting the podium then at the beginning of this race? Like MHD, hoping for the best.
I knew I had some pace from obviously the 100% race, and like pens is a big factor in this race as well, especially at Imola. So yeah, just kept on circuit, and yeah, worked out well.
Brilliant stuff indeed. Then well done for P2. Then this one not an easy one to get P2 in any year. To do it,
it's one of my strongest circuits. Yeah,
good stuff indeed. Well done indeed to Vessia. Then P2 sorry, in the Ferrari here tonight. Then we've got a new championship leader then of Ultimate Beast. Then he's got himself on the top step here tonight in Imola once again for a hat trick of Imola Grand Prix wins, literally in a row. And how are you feeling after that one then, sir?
Wow, what a race. To be fair, I was kind of hoping for a good race because I didn't even realise that Mumford wasn't even in the race until qualifying. So that was a big surprise. So I was just pushing as hard as I can to get as many points as I can. Bottled qualifying. But yeah.
well, it didn't matter in the end because you had quite a comfortable gap then, especially after the safety car. Then when you went onto the hard compound tyres, you sprinted off in the distance after getting past the two that stayed out. Then I think that helped you and create the gap then to the rest of the field. Were you quite comfortable in after that, after you got past Jay Hings and past Farf as well?
Yeah, that was pretty tricky because I didn't know what their strategy was or whatever, and pace. But after you get past them, I did a 3-second gap just so in case I get a penalty. But then I was just chilling really.
And it worked out very well for yourself indeed, and you've got the championship lead now under your belt. Then heading into the next round, which unfortunately is Monaco. What's your thoughts then for that next week?
Monaco. I don't know. Literally anyone could win that race. Like, I mean, the person in P1 most likely to win, but yeah, if you box really early, yeah, then yeah, you still might have a chance of winning. So I don't even know.
We'll see then. So good stuff indeed. Then there is Ultimate Beast. Then of course new championship leader as well here, and of course the race winner or hat-trick of race wins here at Imola. Then the race winner here tonight for Mercedes as well. Then fantastic stuff indeed. And well done to Beast. Then P1, Vessia P2, and MHD P3. That's it then for silver here in Imola. Then we'll be on to bronze tomorrow night then for their Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix as well. Then before we head to the 100%, then to preview the Monaco Grand Prix as well. Then so stay tuned for that Tuesday and Wednesday this week. Then we'll play more action coming up then, and we'll see you very soon.